Greetings and salutations. Welcome to another episode of 365 Days of Gaming. I appreciate you taking our time to check out this video. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Greatly appreciated. Thank you in advance. So we're talking about SNES games, and one of the things that I realized I really enjoyed was, the Kaiju stuff, right? So giant monsters, giant versions of existing creatures, mechanized versions of existing creatures, big, destroying buildings, cities going kaput, just all of that action. I'm about that. During the SNES days, we really didn't have like Godzilla stuff. King Kong was obviously, old, and then we didn't get the new one too much later. So like, what were we gonna do? And then I had a friend tell me about this game called King of the Monsters. Now we're looking at the second one for the SNES. These are arcade games that were ported over. They're Neo Geo games. And SNK, Neo Geo, however you want to call them, they made a bunch of games that they don't get a lot of credit for. Pretty much now they're the King of Fighters group, but they were doing things. They made a bunch of beat 'em ups. They made fighting games, adventure games, shoot 'em up games, and they made King of the Monsters. And I really like this series, especially the second one. The first one's more of a wrestling game than like adventure. There's some, there's different areas you go to and stuff like that. But the second one is really where they figured it out. Now, you can play as the fake Godzilla, you can play as the mechanized King Kong, or you can play as the fake Ultraman, Atomic Guy, who is, my favorite because in addition to the Kaijus, I love the Sentai stuff, and Ultraman is like the perfect combination of both the Sentai, transforming Rangers, Power Rangers, powers, abilities, all of that. Plus, he's giant. He is the Zord. Like, it doesn't get any better than that. He doesn't need to jump into another thing. He just gets big. But each level you're basically fighting against one of these creatures, but then it goes into like this action adventure mode, like either at the beginning of the stage or after you beat the monster or before you get to them, or like in between. But there's always like these kind of intermission stages, and really what you're supposed to do is destroy the stuff to get the power-ups and replenish health if you lost any. But it's just me missing most of the enemy most of the time, and then trying to pick up the bomb power up, even though it's a bomb that just hurts you. I did that like 7 times when I was making this video. I kept spacing out. But the game's really cool because when you have punch, you have kick, you have a jump, you have the you can charge up and do your like energy blast, and then if you get the power ups, you can actually get new versions of your charge up move. And the game basically tries to keep you like it's not really cheap, but you have to mash buttons in order to win the grapple exchanges. But the game is like it's itself. Like, it's very unique. It makes sense, if you're into the Kaiju stuff, everything about the game makes a lot of sense. But it's weird to see that we didn't get anything else from this being as good as it is. Like, they don't even put these characters in like King of Fighters or any of those like fighting collections, and they made a few of them. They just like don't talk about King of the Monsters, and I always felt like it was really solid. Just never really heard a lot of people talk about them or play them, but I would always see them like mentioned as far as like games from this period. They, oh yeah, King of the Monsters, pretty good game. Like, well, can we get another one? Can we get maybe a cameo of such? We end up getting some Kaiju based stuff for the PS2, GameCube, Xbox era. I thought was really cool, but for the most part, it wasn't really. This is it for a while, at least to my knowledge. Now, there may have been things that were released in like Japan and stuff like that, but that doesn't count because it wasn't here and I couldn't play it. But so, King of the Monsters was like, every time I thought about, I see like a Godzilla thing, or, when I was growing up, we had like Godzilla 2000s. Don't hate, Matthew Broderick was doing the best he could with what he had. But I always just remember like, man, we can get another King of the Monsters game. Like when we got into like the 64 era and stuff like that, I was always like, could we get another one? Maybe just please, maybe just a little bit. But basically you go through each of these stages. The other cool thing about this is you can actually play this co-op. So I always, me, if I can do co-op, I want to do some co-op. I want to get a bud in here, and, plus I don't want the full responsibility of the fate of the earth. So, let me get a bud in here to help me out with it. And you could do that in King of the Monsters, and I thought that was really cool. But every stage you're going to go against this other clearly Kaiju inspired monsters, some pro wrestling aspect to it, which I thought was always pretty cool too. But basically, you're just going to go through and fight, and hopefully you survive long enough to beat the whole game. If not, then you gotta come back and, try it again. But each character has their own little moves, clearly inspired by what they were based on. The other funny thing is that this game will give you negative power-ups, and that's always, funny when a game wants to sabotage you with their own things. But it's a really fun game, and especially if you have multiple people, because that way you don't have to shoulder the load by yourself, because these bosses can be kind of cheap, and it is one of those games that still forgets that it's a console game and not an arcade game anymore, and that you can't just pop a quarter in if you lose. So they sometimes they get you in a little whirlwind, put you in the blender, and you can't do anything about it and just gotta take damage. But if you are a fan of kaijus, you should definitely play this game. If you are a fan of Neo Geo, you should definitely play this game. And if you want to run through with a bud, fighting giant things and doing fake wrestling moves on them, you should play this game. If you have, let me know your thoughts on this series. Would you like to see another one? Who was your favorite character and why was it Atomic Guy? But either way, as always, hope you enjoyed this video. Y'all have fun. Y'all be safe. Peace.